Every back-to-school season, the standard buying advice follows the exact same rhythm. Wait for the late August clearance events. That's when retailers aggressively clear out their inventory, and patience usually translates into hundreds of dollars saved. But relying on that late August playbook this year guarantees you will pay more money for a worse machine. The timeline has completely flipped, and waiting is now mathematically the wrong move. This chart tracks wholesale component costs, revealing this season's supply chain shock. LPDDR5X memory, soldered into thin laptops, surged a massive 89% in one quarter. Manufacturers aren't absorbing the hit. Retailers signal incoming inventory replacing current stock will see prices climb 15 to 20%, which means the stock sitting in stores right now was built with cheaper memory than the stock that will replace it in September. Retailers even launch their student sales weeks early to clear this older inventory before the new, higher-priced models arrive. Right now, the calendar is working against you. If you need a laptop for this school year, purchasing the early season stock right now beats waiting for the clearance windows. Walk into a store or open a tech blog right now, and you are going to see a flood of massive, glowing discount badges. Almost everything claims to be half off. To maintain those low price points despite the exploded cost of memory, manufacturers are quietly hollowing out the actual hardware. They are shipping base models with just 8 GB of RAM and 256 GB of storage. These configurations are ticking clocks. An 8 GB machine will become a severe, frustrating bottleneck by the winter break of year 2, inside a standard 4-year college lifespan. This table reveals the trap. A 44% off laptop with 16 GB of memory always outlives a 60% off model with 8. Retailers rely on confusion, selling this compromised 8 GB version using the exact same model name as last year's 16 GB version. The massive discount percentage on the box exists to do one thing: stop you from looking at the spec sheet to see what they cut. To understand why those cuts are lethal, we need to look at what a student actually does on a computer all day. A typical workflow isn't rendering a 3D movie. It's 15 browser tabs for research, watching a recorded video lecture, typing a Word document, and sitting on a Zoom call, all at the same time. This task mix requires memory capacity, not processor speed. A massive funnel representing a new processor pouring data into a narrow 8 GB RAM pipe chokes the system. Windows 11 consumes a huge chunk of that memory in the background before you open a single tab. In the past, you could pry off the bottom cover and add more memory later. Today, in modern thin laptops, the RAM is soldered directly to the motherboard. What you buy on day one is exactly what you will graduate with. This makes overspending on an expensive new AI sticker or the absolute latest generation processor a dangerous misallocation of your budget if you sacrifice memory to afford it. A blazing fast processor is entirely useless if it is constantly starved for data by a lack of non-upgradable memory. The other component manufacturers are aggressively cutting to maintain profit margins is the internal storage drive, frequently capping it at 256 GB. High-resolution lecture recordings, heavy project files, and application installations will fill a 256 GB drive alarmingly fast, forcing students to constantly delete files to keep their machine running. The traditional consumer response is to buy the cheaper, smaller internal drive now, and just buy a portable external hard drive later if they run out of room. But this chart shows portable external SSD prices right now. Storage chips experienced a parallel price spike alongside memory. Those popular 1 TB external drives currently cost roughly double their usual price. Factoring in those inflated accessory costs, securing a 512 GB internal drive upfront is actually cheaper and significantly less frustrating than relying on overpriced external patches down the road. If you refuse to pay these 2026 markups on compromised hardware, there is a strategic loophole. Machines manufactured and stocked in 2024 or 2025 were built before the component squeeze. They carry pre-squeeze hardware configurations sold at pre-squeeze prices. Look at this scorecard comparing a new 2026 8 GB machine against a 1-year-old refurbished 16 GB machine for the same money. A 1-generation-old processor is invisible in daily use, but missing 8 GB of RAM is a constant friction that slows down every application. The strict parameter for this strategy is that you must only shop certified refurbished directly from major brands, ensuring the machine includes a real manufacturer warranty. Shopping certified refurbished is the most mathematically sound method to secure a long-lasting 16GB machine without paying the hidden 2026 inflation tax. Navigating the budget laptop landscape is exhausting, especially with the pricing chaos this season. Let's map out exactly what to look for based on what you have to spend. Under $400, you are hunting for rare early-season Windows outliers. Occasionally, retailers discount older stock that actually includes 16GB of RAM. If you see one, buy it instantly. If you can't find that outlier, an 8GB Chromebook is a highly rational, safe choice. For a student whose entire academic life exists inside web browsers and Google Docs, a Chromebook will handle the workload gracefully. Following the decision tree to the $500 to $800 sweet spot hits the mandatory checklist: 16GB of RAM and a 512GB SSD. But be careful, this bracket is heavily targeted by shrinkflation. You must verify internal specs and completely ignore model names. In the sub-$800 market, applying absolute discipline to that spec checklist is the only way to avoid buying a machine that taps out by sophomore year. Stepping up to the $900 to $1,300 premium bracket brings excellent hardware, typically prioritizing untouched battery life and high resale value. The MacBook Air with 16GB of memory is the default recommendation here. To offset Apple's price hikes this cycle, always buy through their education store, which routinely beats standard retailer discounts. Spending above $1,300 pushes you into specialist territory. These machines are strictly for majors like engineering, architecture, or video production that genuinely require 32GB of RAM and a dedicated graphics card. If your specific course syllabus does not explicitly list those high-end hardware requirements, keep your money. The rules for 2026 are completely distinct from a normal back-to-school season. You have to read the memory line on the spec sheet before you even glance at the discount percentage on the box. Buy the early season stock sitting on shelves right now before the inflated second-half inventory fully replaces it. Because a processor will never be the reason a student's laptop dies young, falling for the 8GB trap absolutely will.